What's up, friends? CNS Retro here, coming to you with something interesting today. Hopefully interesting. We're going to try to take a vintage laptop that I've made into a vintage gaming laptop, a DOS Games laptop, and hook it to a monitor that I got for $8 recently at a Goodwill, and see if we can play some good old Quake in DOS, the way it was meant to be played back in 1996. So, let's see what we can get together. We're going to get the parts together, and I've already done, unfortunately, before I even had a concept for this channel, I already have set up the computer with Windows 98 and all the games installed on the computer, so it's ready to go. So I can kind of refresh what I did there, why I did it, what the computer is, and everything like that, as to the best of my knowledge and ability today. I'm a little foggy today, so please bear with me. But basically, just wanted to kind of share that with you, and then in the next video, hopefully everything goes alright, and we'll be able to jump into some gameplay and have some fun with vintage Quake. So, okay, so we've got most of the parts here. We've got our Dell. It's a Dell Latitude. So you can see we got some classic stuff going on here. Got a COM port, parallel printer port. That is a dock connector there. We've got the PS2 mouse or keyboard, which is kind of neat that they combined that, because in a traditional motherboard of this vintage, you would have both, and if you plugged them in backwards, you could actually damage the keyboard controller card, which would be pretty much like ruining the motherboard. This is classic USB 1.0 here. Awesome. We're going to be trying to use that for the mouse. Might have to use the Windows 98 CD to install drivers, although I put a wireless mouse in that didn't work too well the other day and installed drivers for that, so it might already be set up, I don't know. This is a VGA port, of course, and your power connector. So this is where you get to the RAM. This laptop is interesting because it has the optical drive here, which pushing the lever I'm holding and just pulling it out. So you can see the connection there. It's basically IDE. And then the battery, oddly enough, fits in. That is a swollen battery. Not looking too good there. So, but if you look in there, the interesting thing about this is that while you couldn't put a CD-ROM drive in here, you could actually put an additional battery in here. So this battery could fit in either side, but we're just gonna, man, I hope that, well, it says it's got a signal in it, so I guess it might work. Although I have seen some older batteries do that and then not produce any power whatsoever. So there we go. Make sure it's latched in place. So on the side, we have what appears to be a oh my goodness, I guess that would be infrared I/O. Obviously your headphone, your microphone input. I was disappointed in this laptop that it did not have a line input. It's got your, I guess this is a 56K modem in it. And then you got an Ethernet port, S-Video, oddly enough. I forgot it had that on there. And then on the other side, we have, there's your hard drive bay. The speakers for each side, and then you have some these are where you can put expansions in. You know, these are empty right now. So the idea is that you would push this and it would push those out, but I guess it doesn't work with the little filler cards. You have a little button on the front to push and open this up. So what I'm going to endeavor to do is hook this up to this HP monitor. That's pretty sweet for a 4:3 ratio monitor. I got it for $8 at Goodwill, which makes it sweeter than it would be otherwise. I thought it would be more appropriate if I try to do this here. You can see that empty case back there for the compact that I'm still kind of in stasis with. Haven't had much luck with that thing yet. I've tried a lot of different things with it and hasn't worked out yet, but we'll see what happens. Okay, that is on. Alright, so once I get this hooked up, I'm actually going to put in a dedicated sound source so that you guys can hear the game and sort of be, hopefully, sort of ish kind of immersed in the environment of the original Quake engine. Now, while I'm doing this, I might as well talk a little bit about this computer and what its deal is. Sorry, I have my top button unbuttoned. How couth of me. How uncouth. Excuse me. How couth. How uncouth of me. So, this computer originally came with Windows 2000 on it. Now, there's an interesting thing to mark about what we're doing here. When I got the computer, it had Windows XP on it. So, Windows XP, now, again, I don't know everything about anything, so if I'm wrong about any of this, feel free to, in a friendly and positive fashion, please chime in the comment section below and let me know if you know something that I don't. But as far as I'm aware, Windows XP marked the beginning of the end of DOS. There were, I think, actually hints toward that during the creation of Windows ME, and I'm not sure what exactly the structure of Windows 2000 was based upon. I've used them very briefly. Windows 2000 a little bit more than Windows ME. I pretty much refused ME at the time that it came out, and I don't really recall why it was so hated by so many people at the time, but I was essentially one of them that refused that as a platform. And basically what we have here is this was running Windows 2000. When I got it, it had Windows XP on it. It did not have DOS, and you can't play DOS games on Windows XP unless you use a DOS emulator such as DOSBox, which I've done that before. It offers, I mean, it's an emulator. You know, it offers an experience that's close to DOS, but it's not DOS. So, if I was going to use DOSBox, I would prefer to get on a newer computer, like a well, not brand new. I don't really do brand new. I like computers that are a little older, that are really powerful for their time, but have come around at a reduced price point so that I can get them, upgrade them, and have something much more powerful than what I could afford had I bought a new computer in the first place. That's kind of how I like to do things with new computers for me. And I get really excited about it, you know. But, you know, one of my newer computers, my newest computer, I've got, you know, Quake and the Doom games and Heretic and stuff on that, but they're running on the newest engines available for them, which for Doom, those are primarily Zandonium and GZ Doom, which I prefer GZ Doom at this point. You can run lots of mods and stuff like that through there. It's an easy system of just drag and drop, and this is a Mac, you know, and it runs very, very well on there. And for Quake, I really like Quake Spasm. It's an awesome engine. It's very powerful. It works with great modern mods that are really entirely new games made like Quake, using its weapons, but also modding the creatures and the objects and the physics and everything. And the one I'm particularly thinking of when I'm talking about this is Arcane Dimensions, which is awesome, and I think came out with its latest update months ago in late 2016 or something like that. But you know, that's what I would do instead of using DOSBox, you know, because to me DOSBox is more pain than it's worth. Just get a modern, if your computer's so modern you can't play vintage Quake on it, like unless you're in a intermediate area, like if you can't run the best modern engine on an older XP machine, but you're at an XP so you can't run DOS, then you'd have to use DOSBox. But essentially, in the position I'm in, if I wanted to use DOSBox because I was desperate to play DOS games, I would just get those DOS games legally, buy them, get the WAD files for Doom, the pack files for Quake, and put them into the proper folders, installing the engines. If you're decent at doing anything moderately complex with a computer, then you'll be able to figure out how to install these engines and the games into those engines and any mods that you'd want to use. That's one thing I always loved about id Softwares. They're so mod friendly. At least they used to be. Not sure what I think about the new snap map type of deal with Doom 2016, but any case, I haven't really gotten to mess with that, so I'm not sure what I think about it. But the infinitely moddable structure of the game and the design, of Doom and Quake is pretty admirable. But anyway, there's another way to play these old games beside emulators, newer engines, what have you. That is to get an older computer and install DOS, or a Windows version like 98 that is DOS based. Now, there's an interesting thing about this that is an interesting question that could be brought up by the situation, and that is, wouldn't it be interesting to see how well Win9X operating systems like 95 and 98 would run on the power of a new computer? Well, I haven't tried that directly, but I think that based on my experience with running it on newer computers, with newer Intel processors in a virtual machine, that the answer would be not necessarily very good. Now, the virtual machine could be ruining the experience. That may be the problem. But when I've had, Windows 7 running perfectly in that same virtual machine and then Windows 95 running horribly, it kind of says to me that the architecture is so different that it actually has trouble running the older operating system. Now, does that mean that computers were just as fast back then as they are today and our architecture just changed? Well, absolutely not. I mean, if you think about the amounts of data that has to be crunched when you're processing a game like the latest release or whatever, you're light years beyond the numbers that were required to be crunched in a game like Quake or Doom. Now, those games are awesome games that seem to have a timeless quality and value to them. They're still just as fun today as they were back then, even in their old engine, if you can harness something like this to play it. So the question becomes, would that run very well in new architecture? Not necessarily. It might, but why would you want to take a new computer and strip it down and load Windows 98 on it? I don't know. Not something that I've really tried to do, but there is a midpoint, is what I'm getting to, between that transition where these computers were made to support the Win9X architecture very well as some of the newer operating systems. I don't know if this would support Windows, 7, 8, 10 very well. I don't know how well those would run on this. And I haven't tried that. I don't really intend to, but what I did is I stripped it down from Windows XP and installed Windows 98 on it. So you've got this happy medium here where this machine is friendly with the architecture of Win9X and some of the newer operating systems, and when I say newer, I mean like XP, probably Vista. I don't know how well Vista would treat this because of the lower RAM and the lower clock speed. We'll turn it on, see if we can get a look at the clock speed in the properties of the computer. But anyway, what you have here is a computer that was not like a DOS gaming computer. There are computers that probably be more optimal for that, or optimized for that. The reason I say that is that this is kind of in an awkward position where this hardware is so powerful for the games of the time people are going to be playing. Quake is 1996. This computer probably came out in 1999, and it's got a Pentium 3 in it. It overrides Quake. So the gameplay is going to be a little kind of like you're walking like this. It's not like choppy, like it's smooth, but it's like there are these bursts, like Quake Man has these like bursts of energy as he's running around. But everything, I don't know how to explain it, you just have to watch. So hopefully I can, obviously I don't have screen capture on this. So I'm going to have to set this up and do my best to film it, and hopefully that translates well. I'm going to try to do a direct output of the audio into a recording device so that you can hear me talking and laughing at myself and the gameplay directly for your enjoyment. And that's going to be in another video. Obviously, this is kind of the setup for that. But anyway, I just want to talk about that a little bit and say that this isn't the perfect DOS gaming computer. But for me, I'm happy with it for that purpose. And I can hook it up to this monitor that I got for $8 at Goodwill. This computer that was given to me for free from the 90s. And we're going to play some 90s. One of my favorite games from the 90s, Quake, in its original form, in its original engine, coded by John Carmack, the genius himself, and see what these beauties of, you know, the beginning of the end of id Software as we knew it in the 90s is. There's some drama concerning the creation of Quake. If you haven't read the book Masters of Doom, you should do that, and I should do that too, because I haven't read enough of it. So, let's get this thing set up where we can use it. Okay, so firstly, usually, just kind of give this thing a little encouragement. It likes to go to sleep if it doesn't have a signal, which is pretty standard. We're going to turn this baby on. We're going to shut the lid. We're going to see, yes, that's what I wanted. All right, so now I'm going to try to stick this in a, wait, what? Invalid. Okay, that's fine. I can just hit F1 there. Okay, and our X-General keyboard worked beautifully. Windows 98. Yay! Okay, I'm just gonna try to stick this down here without hurting the computer's feelings. It has feelings, you know. Oh, it's asking for the... It wants info about the USB optical mouse. I'm gonna have to use the keyboard. It wants to know what to do. Search for the best driver. Yep. Okay. Oh, crumpets. Trying to do too many things at once. Okay. Let's get that out of there. Look at that. Beauty. Beauty. Alright, now, ladles and gentlemen, we're going to open that optical drive, and we are going to put the Windows 98 disk in there, and we are going to put it on there, we're going to put it in there, and we are going to snap it in there, and we are going to tell this to look at the drive in Himmel, and we are going to hit the enter button, and we are going to see that the driver is hopefully being installed. New clock settings, whatever. I'm not going to worry about that right now, even though it seems to think that it is some other time in the world. So we'll just go to Quake here. Let's make sure that's gonna start up. Well, it doesn't seem to remember what I told it last time, which was to set the video to the super high resolution here, 800, 600, which actually looks pretty stinking good. Now, when I return, things are going to look a little better than this. I'll make sure the lights are off. I'll get the best location for this and have, you know, things where they're not overexposed. We'll figure it out. And we'll get into some Quake. But for now, I'm just going to shut it off, and I'll see you shortly. So that's pretty much it for the setup video. If you'd like to see me play the first dimension of Quake, check out the next video. I think what I might actually do is make, I don't know, I might film a couple different versions, or maybe in the same version I will like speedrun it on easy and then play it through after I've warmed up on normal, because yeah, I'll probably explain as I'm playing the game, because I will be talking to you, but yeah, just stick around and we'll be back with that in the next video. Thanks for watching, and until then, be amazing, and if you can't be amazing, be incredible.